Chapter 21. The Show Trial. "Oh, fairy floss," said Hawthorne, waving over a uniformed Trollocean worker selling treats. "Want some? I've got some Christmas money from my granny." Morrigan shook her head. There was only so much room in her stomach, and at present the entire space was taken up by nerves, nausea, and the growing certainty that today was going to be the most humiliating day of her life. "Aren't you nervous?" Hawthorne shrugged as he tore off a huge strip of fairy floss with his teeth. "Bit, suppose. I'm not doing any new tricks today, though. Nan thought I should just stick with my best ones. I just wish I could pick which dragon I'm riding." "Won't you be riding your own?" Hawthorne gave a short, sharp laugh. "My own dragon? Are you mental? I don't have my own dragon. Whose parents can afford to buy them a dragon?" He licked remnants of sticky pink spun sugar from his fingers. "I ride one of the junior dragon riding league's featherweights when I'm doing tricks. Usually either flies effortlessly like a discarded sweet wrapper on the back of the wind, or glimmers in the sun like an oil slick on the ocean. Oil slick is definitely the best trained, but sweet wrapper's much braver. She's good at pulling out steep dives." "Why can't you use them?" "You know what the society's like." Morrigan didn't bother to remind him that no, being from the Republic, she didn't. "They reckon their dragons are better than the League's dragons. Nan says it's best not to argue. I hope they don't give me a Highland breed, though. They're so bulky. I can never turn them properly. Oh, look, it's starting." "Finally," thought Morrigan as she watched the elders enter the Trolloceum. A cheer rose from the stands. Elder Quinn held her hand up for silence and spoke into a microphone. "Welcome," she said, her voice booming from the speakers, "to the final trial for Unit 919 of the Wondrous Society." Another cheer. Morrigan's ears rang. The stadium was packed, not only with the remaining candidates, but also their patrons, other society members who'd come to scope out the new talent, and, of course, friends and family. Hawthorne's parents were up there in the stands somewhere, as was Jack, who'd come home for the weekend specially to support Morrigan, which she found surprising and actually quite touching. There was an air of festivity in the Trolloceum, as if this was a normal day out and they were just about to watch two trolls bash each other's skulls in. "Welcome, esteemed members of the Society. Welcome, patrons. But most of all, welcome to our candidates, the 75 brave young souls who've come so far, accomplished so much, and made my fellow elders and me so very, very proud. Candidates, when you arrived today, you each were randomly assigned a number to determine the order of your trials. A society official will come to collect you from your seats in groups of 5. Be prepared to move quickly when your number is called and follow the official down to the gate, where your patron will meet you and escort you into the arena." "Yeah, if I'm lucky," Morrigan muttered, and Hawthorne snorted, smiling at her sympathetically. He would be 11th in the trials today, but Morrigan had been assigned number 73, which at first she'd been unhappy with, as it meant a long, nervous wait ahead. But as Hawthorne pointed out, the later she was on, the more time Jupiter would have to get there. "If, after your trial," continued Elder Quinn, "you have earned a place in the top 9 candidates, your name will appear on the leaderboard. If not, well, we will wish you the best for your future somewhere else. Good luck, girls and boys. Let us begin." The first candidate to enter the arena was Dinah Kilburn of Dusty Junction. Before she began, her patron fussed about arranging chairs, tables and ladders in the haphazard towers to create a sort of makeshift jungle gym. Dinah was amazing, an agile climber, an extraordinary acrobat, and Morrigan was shocked to discover a monkey. Hawthorne laughed and then looked around guiltily. "Morrigan, you can't call her that. She's not an actual monkey, she just has a tail." Dinah swung neatly from one tower to another, balancing on top or hanging upside down by her tail, and finished with a perfect landing. But the elders only took a minute to reach their decision, waving her out of the Trolloceum without adding her name to the leaderboard. Dinah looked crushed. "Ooh," said Hawthorne, cringing. "Tough start." Morrigan was flummoxed. Exactly what were the elders looking for? What sort of person did they consider Wondrous Society material? She thought of the only society member she knew, Jupiter, whose obscure knack was for seeing things nobody else could, James Chandrakali, an award-winning opera singer and gatherer of small woodland animals. When they were 11 years old, were they even more remarkable than Dinah Kilburn, the extraordinary monkey-tailed acrobat? Or was there something else that the elders were looking for, some other indefinable quality that made the perfect Wanderer Society member? The performances only went downhill from there. None of the next 4 candidates, a landscape painter, a hurdler, an illusionist, and a boy who played the ukulele, ranked in the top 9. When they brought forward the second group of candidates, there were still no names on the leaderboard. In fact, nobody ranked at all until the 9th candidate, Shepherd Jones, a boy who claimed he could speak to dogs. He performed an incredible series of tricks with a dozen canines, big and small. He barked commands to them, and the crowds cheered as the dogs jumped through hoops, walked backwards on their hind legs, and danced with each other. The elders remained sceptical, however. "Send one of those dogs over to me," commanded Elder Quinn. Shepherd barked at the blue cattle dog, and it ran up to the stands to Elder Quinn, who showed it the contents of her handbag and sent it back to him. "Now, tell me what the dog saw." Shepherd knelt down to have a short conversation with the dog. A coin purse, a pork pie, an umbrella, a lipstick, a rolled-up newspaper, reading glasses, and a pencil. The dog barked once more. "Oh, and a piece of cheese." Elder Quinn nodded, and the audience applauded. The dog barked twice. Shepherd glanced up at Elder Quinn shyly. He says, can he have the pork pie, please?" Elder Quinn beamed and tossed the pie down to the shepherd. "Here, he can have the cheese too." The cattle dog whined a little and barked 3 times. Shepherd's face turned red. "I ain't telling him that," he said quietly. "What did he say, boy?" asked Elder Wong. Shepherd Jones ruffled his hair, looking at the ground. "He says, cheese makes him constipated." Shepherd Jones was the first candidate added to the leaderboard, and the audience applauded as his name appeared on the big screens at either end of the Trolloceum. The 10th candidate, however, a girl called Millador West, who made 3 extraordinary hats in 11 minutes and presented one to each of the elders, was not awarded a place. Next, it was Hawthorne's turn. Morrigan wished him luck as he ushered down to the arena with the next group of 5. He was dressed head to toe in soft brown leather, and as Nan Dawson introduced him, "Hawthorne Swift of Nevermoor." Hawthorne fastened his shin guards, wrist guards, and helmet. The audience gasped as a Wanderer Society dragon handler led in 24-foot tall dragon with iridescent green scales and a long jewel-bright tail. Morrigan had seen pictures of dragons, of course. They were considered a Class A dangerous apex predator and a plague proportions pest in the Republic, and the Dangerous Wildlife Eradication Force often made headlines in culling season, either for successfully destroying a nest or for having their faces burned off. But nothing compared to seeing the real thing. Hawthorne had offered several times to sneak her into a dragon stable under cover of night, since he wasn't allowed to invite her to training sessions, but Jupiter had said no. He'd prefer Morrigan to keep all 4 of her original limbs, thanks. The dragon emitted steaming hot air in great bursts from slit-like nostrils as it swung its head from left to right. The crowd leaned back in their seats. Hawthorne seemed entirely unfazed by his proximity to an ancient reptile that could burn him to a crisp if it sneezed the wrong way. He took a few minutes to acquaint himself with the animal, allowing it to get comfortable with its presence and patting its flank gently but firmly. The dragon watched him closely through one fiery orange eye. Hawthorne walked around it in a circle, trailing his palm over the dragon's rough hide so that it knew where he was and wouldn't get skittish. Morrigan had seen a stable hand at Crow Manor do the same thing with her father's carriage horses. The elders leaned forward, watching this interaction very closely. Elder Wong looked especially impressed and kept nudging Elder Quinn and whispering in her ear. Hawthorne took a large piece of raw meat from the Wanderer Society handler and fed it to the dragon, patting it more roughly now on the back of the neck, until finally, without hesitation, he took a running leap and climbed up into the saddle that had been fitted between the dragon's shoulder blades. He snapped the leather reins and lurched forward in his seat as the enormous green reptile beat its wings and took off into the air. Hawthorne and his dragon soared in a wide circle above the arena before beginning their show in earnest. Hawthorne yelled a command Morrigan couldn't quite make out, dug his heels into the animal's side, and they were off, rolling in tight somersaults, swooping over the stands and taking steep dives down to the ground, only to pull back up at the last second. They sped in a straight line with the dragon's wings outstretched as Hawthorne stood up on its back, mimicking the movement with his own arms out as if he were flying. Then he abruptly took his saddle and called out a command, and the dragon pulled its wings in tight and tumbled over a 360-degree turn before outstretching its wings again without losing any height at all. Morrigan had never seen Hawthorne like this. completely confident and in control, as if he was doing the thing he was born for. Shoulders back, eyes ahead, he commanded the dragon masterfully. It could have been an extension of his own body. Hawthorne was every bit the champion Nan Dawson had described. The response of the audience confirmed it. Everyone, including the elders, was in Hawthorne's thrall, gasping and screaming as he sped downwards towards the ground and cheering when he pulled out of a dive or glided around the Trolloceum stands mere inches above their heads. Morrigan was surprised by her friend's talent. It wasn't that she hadn't believed Hawthorne would be good, exactly. It was just that this poised, dazzling dragon rider was hard to reconcile with the boy who'd once spent an afternoon showing her how he could make fart noises with his armpits. As his final flourish, Hawthorne used the dragon's fire-breathing mechanism to write his initials in the sky with smoke before coming to land neatly in the arena. The audience and the elders leapt to their feet to cheer Hawthorne as he climbed down off the dragon's back and took a bow. Nobody cheered more loudly than Morrigan. The elders conferred briefly, but seemed to be in perfect agreement. Hawthorne's name went straight to the number 1 spot. But the quality of the trial stalled again after that, and nobody from the next 3 groups was added to the top 9. Finally, it was time for the candidate Morrigan had been waiting all year to see. When Baz Charlton announced Noel Devereux of the Silver District, Noel entered the arena like a queen at court. After a minute of preening, she opened her mouth to sing, and it was like a choir of angels had exploded and spewed stardust over the Trolloceum. There were no words to the song. It was a cloud of melody, a clear, sweet lullaby that seemed to surround Morrigan like a bubble of perfect contentment. A quick look around her told her she wasn't the only one. There were glazed eyes and tranquil smiles everywhere, as if Noel's voice had cast a strange, blissful spell. Morrigan never wanted the song to end. She had to admit that Noel's knack was truly, breathtakingly good. How annoying. The entire stadium, even Morrigan, applauded wildly as Noel bowed and curtsied, blowing kisses into the crowd and beaming at the elders. Hawthorne nudged Morrigan and made gagging noises, but it was too late for that. She'd already seen him wipe away a sneaky tear when the song ended. Elder Quinn waved a fragile hand at the leaderboard and the names rearranged themselves so that Noel the songbird was now in second place behind Hawthorne, with Shepherd the dog whisperer close behind. Noel's face fell for the briefest moment as though disappointed she wasn't number 1, but she quickly recovered her poise and left the arena with her nose high in the air. Morrigan's stomach dropped. Noel was going to get into the society. Popular, talented Noel was going to be in Unit 919, and so was Hawthorne, and they'd become best friends. Hawthorne would forget all about Morrigan, and Morrigan would have to leave Nevermoor and Jupiter and all her friends at the Hotel Deucalion, and she'd never see them again. She knew it. The certainty of it took her breath away, just as if a big depressed elephant had sat on her chest. Hawthorne seemed to know what she was thinking. Maybe not the depressed elephant bit. "It's easier to rank high near the beginning," he said, elbowing her in the ribs as he took a long slurp of peppermint fizz. "There are plenty of people to knock Noel off the board. They'll probably knock me off too." Morrigan knew he was just being modest, but she appreciated it all the same. "You know you'll get in," she said, elbowing him back. "You were amazing." As the afternoon wore on, Hawthorne's prediction seemed unlikely. Although Shepherd quickly dropped out of the top 9, Noel only went down 2 places. Ahead of her was Hawthorne, who dropped to second place, and in third was a boy named Mihir Ibrahim, who performed a long soliloquy in 37 languages with what Elder Quinn declared perfect intonation. Currently in first place was Anar, the plump pretty girl with golden ringlets, whom Morrigan remembered from the wondrous welcome. With her faded yellow dress, painted leather shoes, and her hair tied back in a bow, Anar looked like she was off to Sunday school, which left Morrigan utterly unprepared for her unusual talent. Anar's patron, a woman called Sunuti Mishra, boasted that her candidate had a knack for knowing the human body. To prove this, she volunteered to lie down on a metal hospital gurney while Anar sliced her open with a scalpel, removed her appendix and sewed her back up again with neat tiny stitches. Most extraordinarily, Anar did all this blindfolded. Morrigan found it tremendously satisfying to watch Noel Devereux's face drop when Anar went straight to first place and bumped her down to 4th. The trials continued with mixed results as candidate after candidate took the nerve-wracking walk to the centre of the arena. Some were confident and brash, others looked like they were praying for the arena floor to open up and swallow them. One frightened girl trembled so violently that she appeared to fade into the air, becoming incorporeal from the sheer terror of stage fright. Luckily, that was her knack, becoming incorporeal. She shimmered like a milky pearlescent ghost in the sunshine and demonstrated her intangibility by walking straight through the elders' table. The audience was impressed. Gradually, the girl's confidence grew. Unfortunately, it seemed her talent stemmed from her terror, because once she felt more comfortable and began enjoying the limelight, her body became substantial again. On her return journey through the elders' table, she bumped right into it and sent a jug of water flying over Elder Wong. She didn't make it onto the leaderboard. Meanwhile, Morrigan tried to quell the anxiety that had been growing in the pit of her stomach. Between each performance, she scanned the rows of patrons. "Where is he?" she muttered. "He'll be here." Hawthorne offered her some of his popcorn, which she refused. "Jupiter would never miss your last trial." "What if he doesn't make it?" "He'll make it." "What if he doesn't?" Morrigan repeated over the roar of the crowd as Lin Mei Ling ran a speedy 12-second lap of the Trolloceum and stamped her feet in frustration when the elders waved her away kindly. The audience groaned in sympathy. "I don't even know what my knack is supposed to be. How am I supposed to do my trial without him?" "Look, he'll make it all right, but if he doesn't..." Hawthorne craned his neck, looking around the stadium. "If he doesn't, I'll come down into the arena with you. We'll think of something." Morrigan raised an eyebrow. "Like what?" He chewed his popcorn and thought seriously for a moment. "Can you make fart noises with your armpits?" The sun set behind the Trolloceum grandstands and the floodlights turned on. In Morrigan's head, they were like giant spotlights designed to cast a very bright glow on her public humiliation. The rankings shifted constantly, and the candidates in the top 9 anxiously watched the leaderboard. Every time a new candidate was ranked, there were groans or tears or tantrums from the candidate who was bumped out of the top 9. Morrigan glanced down at Noel, 2 rows below, chewing her fingernails and glancing every 5 seconds at the leaderboard. She was now clinging to 7th position. Just ahead of Noel was a boy Morrigan recognised from the book trial, Francis Fitzwilliam, who'd whipped up a 7-course dinner for the judges. Each course took them on a roller coaster of heightened emotions. That was bizarre to watch, from severe paranoia after a dish of grilled octopus to gales of gleeful laughter brought about by a blueberry souffle. In 5th place was Thadia MacLeod, a brawny, red-headed girl from the Highlands who defeated a full-size adult troll in single combat. Hawthorne had dropped to 4th place, just behind a small, angelic-looking boy called Archean Tate. Archean was a violinist, and as he played, he moved nimbly all around the stadium and through the rows of seats without missing a note. He was very good, but the elders didn't seem inclined to add him to the leaderboard until the very last moment, when the sweet-faced Archean revealed his true talent. With a slightly sheepish grin, he emptied his pockets of what turned out to be quite a lot of jewellery, watches and coins that he'd managed to purloin while playing the violin. Morrigan was deeply impressed. He'd even swiped Elder Quin's earring right out of her ear. Hawthorne didn't seem at all put out that the pickpocket had ranked above him. If anything, he was delighted by Archean's knack, even after realising his own leather dragon-riding gloves were among the pile of pilfered loot that the boy was now returning, piece by piece, to its rightful owners. "How did he do that?" Hawthorne kept saying, grinning widely and examining his gloves as if they might give him a clue. Morrigan was about to say for the 27th time that she didn't know, and would he please stop asking, when she saw Noel's sidekick enter the arena with Bath Charleston. "That's her," Morrigan nudged Hawthorne. "That's the girl we saw in the courtyard during the fright trial, remember? Oh, what was her name?" She was the 8th candidate Mr. Charlton had presented that day. Of his group, it was Noel who'd come the furthest. Morrigan looked at Noel. She was watching her friend with a blank, disinterested expression, like she was just any other candidate. Hawthorne shook his head. "What are you going on about? Do you really not remember her?" "Remember who?" Bored, distracted murmurs rippled through the rows of candidates when Baz Charlton announced his candidate as Cadence Blackburn of Nevermoor. His voice was nearly drowned out by the restless audience talking amongst themselves. But unlike anybody else, Morrigan was paying close attention. "Cadence, that's her name, I forgot." "How did I forget that?" Morrigan said to Hawthorne, who shrugged. "Proceed," said Elder Quinn, pouring herself a cup of tea. The elders too were beginning to show signs of weariness after several hours of judging. There were glances at wristwatches, chins leaning in hands, and long, open-mouthed yawns. Baz Charlton gestured to somebody in a small windowed room at the top of the stands. The floodlights dimmed, throwing the audience into darkness, and a film was projected onto the big screens.